Hey everybody, just following up. Now is about a week after I ended my 7-day fast, and this was a water fast, and this is the second extended duration water fast that I've done. And I want to talk about like some of the results and some of the reasons why you do it, and also like some of the cons and my kind of funny story about what can happen. So this is what we're going to go into. So fasting, has gotten really a lot of attention nowadays, and for good reason, because it does a lot of really good healthy things for you. So one of the things that kind of got me onto doing this was the benefits, the health benefits, and I wanted to lose some body fat. I was a little heavier than I like to be, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a fast. Now in the past, I've done several fasts that were 1-2 days in duration, primarily just water fasts. But come in May, I decided I was going to do an extended one, so I elected to do 5 days. 5 days was great for me. Felt fantastic. First 2 days, always the toughest. Trying to figure out how I can see if you guys are making comments or not. All right, I'm not sure how to do that. But so first, the 5 days were great for me, fantastic. In fact, lost about 10 pounds of mostly body fat, I would say, and 4 months later I had maintained 100% of that body fat loss. In fact, I also felt like a little bit like I couldn't gain that body fat back. So I elected to say, okay, so about 4 months go down the road, and I decided to do another fast. And this time I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 7 days. I'm going to do 7 days of a water fast. And so what I thought would be good would be just kind of open things up for some questions. But I'm going to go into the benefits of fasting and why you might decide to do this, and what the positive benefits are for your health. So one of the single biggest impacts that fasting has is that it completely resets your insulin sensitivity. And what I mean by that is this: when you are eating 3 meals a day and 3 snacks a day, each time that you eat, your body has to release insulin. And insulin is what maintains blood sugar at a constant level. In the United States of America, that's where you are, that's where I am, 100 million people are considered to be pre-diabetic or easing into this type 2 diabetes realm. And the problem with this is they don't know it. So it's almost entirely silent. They're not aware of what's going on. They might not feel good. They probably don't. They don't have the energy they think they should. Their body composition is changing. They might be gaining more fat around their midsection or hips and thighs in the case of women. But they just don't feel the way they should. And so this insidious process will go on for, it could be a few years before the first obvious diabetic symptoms occur, and this might be discovered in a routine blood test. So you might go to your PCP or whoever's taking care of your health, and they may order a blood sugar test, and they say, well, your blood sugar's getting a little bit up, and your A1C number is high. The issue with this is 3 to 5 years on average, a little later than it could have been. And so I have other videos and I talk about this pretty frequently, but your fasting insulin level should be checked on a routine basis. If you have not had that test, it's a blood test, it's cheap, I would have it done. And that fasting insulin test is going to tell you how much insulin your body is pumping out when it doesn't have food around. If that number is high, that is a clear-cut indication of insulin resistance, and that is a gateway into what's called type 2 diabetes or non-insulin dependent diabetes. So we know fasting completely ameliorates that. In a 3-day fast, you could completely reset your metabolism, and if you're type 2 diabetic, in 3 days of a water fast, at the end of 3 days, you could very well not be type 2 diabetic anymore. This is how powerful this is. So it is a dramatic change in your metabolism, because metabolism is basically taking energy that you're consuming and turning it into energy you can use. And so type 2 diabetes is basically a disease of energy metabolism. So we know we have profound effects there. Also too, now, the next thing is people who have gastrointestinal dysfunction or disorders or disease. And I'm talking about things like acid reflux, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, IBS, diverticulitis. They can all benefit from fasting as well, because when you're not actually eating, when you're not putting food into your GI tract, it's actually a time for the GI tract to start to heal, to get well, to replace the cells that are dead, damaged, dying, or diseased. You're going to hear me say those words often, because that's what happens in a fast. But anyway, when you're not putting food into your body all the time, especially your GI tract, it can actually get well, it can actually heal. And if you're eating constantly, it has less opportunity to do that. Even though there's an ongoing process, when you stop eating, you just unlock this healing, this innate healing that's still there. It's kind of lying dormant. So the way I explain it to people is this. When you go to bed at night and you go to sleep, you're essentially fasting. When you're fasting at night, the little repair crew comes out and they start to fix your body. All the things that are not working well are fixed up. So when you're doing this, I'm touching these things so they go away on my screen. I don't know why it's like this. All right, go away. All right. When you're not continually eating, this repair crew gets to work 24 hours a day instead of 6 or 8 hours a day when you're sleeping. So it's an extended time for your body to go into a deep healing. The scientific name is called autophagy, which is Latin for consume oneself. And that's essentially what's happening is you are consuming dead, damaged, dying, and diseased tissue, and you are initiating healing. And so this is what this is all about in part. So gastrointestinals, benefit tremendously. I'm actually reading from the guide that I'm giving away. So if you need this guide, you want this guide, just get in contact with me. It's free for now. What I'm going to do probably is create like a page and just offer it at a nominal fee. But now it's free. So if you want it, just get with me. When you're fasting, you regenerate your immune system as well. So you go from, and the immune system is very intimately involved with the digestive system. So anytime you bring something from the outside in, i.e. food, your immune system is activated. It has to be activated because it's a potential threat to you. So anything you eat is a potential threat to your health and well-being. And so your immune system has to be active here. When you stop eating, again, your immune system can look and start to repair, rebuild itself, but also look around for things that it might not have time to look at when you're eating all the time. So amidst the confusion, certain things can go into your system and lie there. This is the case for people who have like chronic Lyme's disease, they have Epstein-Barr, they may have Candida, their herpes viruses. All of these things can kind of go dormant or go hide. And when you're not eating all the time, your immune system could go out and go look around for stuff to find. And so it's a powerful reboot on immune function, like very powerful. So I have read about people who've got, major changes in health status after going on a fast, and it's because of this. And when we're on that topic, your immune system is also strengthened and revitalized, so you're more potent against those same pathogenic organisms. So stuff that comes in, your body will then have a fresh eye on it. It'll be rebuilt, it'll be replenished, and it can act more efficiently and get this stuff handled. Also too, a fast is anti-inflammatory. It reduces inflammation dramatically. For most people, I'd say probably 80-90% of people, their diet is the #1 reason why they have inflammation. So they're eating things that are not healthy for them, or they're not good for their bodies. This could just be things that you're sensitive to. So for example, I'm sensitive to dairy products. So even though dairy products aren't bad for everybody, dairy products are bad for me. So when I did food sensitivity testing, dairy is is the simple biggest irritant to my body in terms of digestion, and I've known this since college. So when I was in college, I thought I had irritable bowel syndrome. That's what I had been told, but it turns out it was just dairy intolerance, not lactose. It has nothing to do with lactose. It has to do with the proteins in the milk that I'm sensitive to. So being inflammatory as a result of diet is handled because you stop eating. So when you're not eating, inflammation will go back down and you will be able to start to heal. So this is the reason why people sometimes they go through periods where their joints ache, or they're just in pain, or their muscles, and they're just they're just suffering. They're just not feeling well. And the simple best thing to do here is just stop eating. I'm sitting in my backyard here and I'm looking at my dog. When my dog doesn't feel well, she stops eating. So there's this innate mechanism in nature that just goes to heal. And so we kind of override a lot of these mechanisms, but still very powerful. If you have an autoimmune disease of any variety, fasting is going to be a great thing for you to do. Again, we talk about inflammation and some of the reasons why inflammation is present, diet being the biggest one. So if you have an inflammatory condition or you have an autoimmune condition, there could be an underlying pathogen that's there. It could be a food sensitivity that's there. Both of those things can be addressed during a fast. So that's an important and powerful thing to keep in mind, is you can get yourself well by just depriving yourself of food. Somebody asked me yesterday, I don't want to deprive myself of anything. And I laughed. I was like, I mean, come on now, boo-hoo, let's go. Yeah, you might be hungry. When you don't eat, you get hungry. You're going to survive. You're going to live. Come on. So the other thing too, one of the other good things is, we talked about insulin, we talked about insulin sensitivity, but when you go on a fast, it also enables your sex hormones to be reset. So one of the things that happens is, when your liver is constantly processing, is that you have all this stuff coming in. And your liver has to do all of these different things like glucuronidation, sulfonication, detoxification. When you're not eating, that doesn't need to happen. What begins to happen though is fat starts to get broken down. The toxins that your body stores in fat, that is the repository for toxins, and your nervous system, by the way. So after your liver processes a toxin, it is generally stored, tucked away in body fat. When you break that encapsulation, when you break that fat molecule down, that stuff starts to get liberated into your system, and so your liver then has to detoxify that. So, but another important thing is, when you have a bunch of body fat, and body fat is a peripheral site for what's called aromatase, which is an enzyme that in men and women turns testosterone to estrogen. So the fatter you are for a male, the more estrogen you will have, simply because you have more enzyme called aromatase. And that aromatase is working against you in terms of your composition, your body composition. When your estrogen level is high as a man, you hold a lot more body fat, and your testosterone level is inhibited. The only thing that inhibits body making more testosterone, more than testosterone itself, is actually estrogen, because the estrogen is the end product of testosterone metabolism. So when your estrogen is high, your body shuts the brakes down on the whole works. So you lose that testosterone. When you go and you burn up body fat, when you metabolize body fat, when you eat body fat, which is what happens when you fast, that allows this hormonal balance to be re-regulated. Also, it has an effect on cortisol levels and all these other things. So So the rapid loss of body fat, and people always say, "Oh, don't do that. You're gonna get sick. You're gonna die. You're gonna drop over." This is all just it's dogma. It's not true. Hey, stop it. So sorry, but a rapid loss of body fat triggers a lot of metabolic changes, and the metabolic changes can be very, very rewarding. So for men, one of the things you'll notice is, more vitality, more sexual vigor, more sex drive, because your body fat is lower, your testosterone is higher proportionally, and it's a good thing. And then that kind of creates momentum. So that momentum eases you into more and more body fat loss. So while I was doing it the first time after 5 days, one of the things I noticed was about a week or two later was I looked down at my legs, and I was in the car, and I noticed I have these big veins just kind of going everywhere, which I hadn't noticed before. And it's because my body fat continued to drop after the fast. I get leaner and leaner after the fast. And I have a theory behind why that is, and I'm going to talk about it here too. Okay, so we know we are going to get rid of body fat. This is going to help people who have sleep problems, sleep apnea. If you have too much weight around your neck and throat, you're going to breathe better at night. You're going to sleep better. You're going to sleep more deeply. The cardiovascular benefit. Now, nobody really talks about this much, but when you go on a fast, your blood pressure drops. Your cholesterol, your fluid dynamics in your system improve dramatically. And your body's always seeking to maintain what's called homeostasis. So homeostasis is, or a loss of homeostasis is a major contributor to cardiovascular disease. So your blood pressure going up is a fluid dynamic problem. When your blood pressure gets to go down, it's because it can. So we treat the symptom in modern society. Blood pressure's high, give medication to make blood pressure go low, rather than asking, why is the blood pressure high? The blood pressure is high because there's too much resistance against blood flow. So when you fast, that resistance is reduced. You start to consume some of the stuff inside the linings of the arteries, the inflammatory proteins and exudates, and fluid dynamics improve. Cardiovascular function improve. So you find you need less blood pressure medication because you're not eating things that cause your blood pressure to increase. And it's not much about salt. In some cases, but mostly not. So one of the things I did in my fast was I actually drank some salt and some potassium and things, and I actually have the formula in the guide as far as like what I put together. I experimented with different combinations and found out what worked. Now for me, it might not be the exact same for you. I was not very overweight. I would fit into like the norm. I was maybe, for me, about 20 pounds total overweight, not overweight, over fat. I had 20 pounds of fat that I wanted to get rid of. And so I don't care so much about weight. If you're a muscular person, that's not bad for you. Even though my BMI is always like in the obese category, you would not look at me and say, this guy is obese. You would just say he's a muscular guy who has some body fat on him. So I was able with these two fasts to strip off a lot of body fat. So pretty amazingly, like even shocked me a little bit. So the cardiovascular benefit is huge. Just being lighter, just having less fat, less distance for your heart to push blood through. So all of those pounds of body fat have millions of capillaries and vessels that your heart has to push blood through. So it has to push harder to get through more and more tissue. When you lose that tissue, it doesn't have to push as much. The hemodynamics get better, everything gets better. So it's a pretty amazing thing for you to do. The other thing is when you're fasting and your insulin levels get to drop, when your insulin levels are at the basement, they're not storing fat anymore. Insulin is your fat storage hormone. When your insulin level is low, your body pumps out another hormone called human growth hormone. Human growth hormone initiates a process called lipolysis, which in Latin means to break fat. So human growth hormone raises the free fatty acid level in the blood, gives your heart energy to burn. It gives your muscles energy to burn. Those burned fats, those free fatty acids that are burned, liberate something called ketones, and that gives your brain something to burn. So this process is miraculously efficient. It is so miraculously designed, it's perfectly designed, that it can fuel your very large brain for your body size in terms of mammals is concerned extremely well. So when you're liberating all these ketones, when you're burning all this fat, you're also doing something else that growth hormone does, which is it fixes things. So human growth hormone is the youth hormone. People pay thousands of dollars to go to clinics to get growth hormone injections. Where really all you need to do is fast. If you fast for 3, 5, 7 days, your growth hormone is going to go up dramatically, and you're going to start that repair, rebuild, restore cycle instead of that dead, damaged, dying disease cycle. So it starts to initiate deep, deep healing at the cell level. And then the other thing is, the big thing when everybody talks about this, is autophagy. And autophagy, like I said, is Latin for consume oneself. And that's where the body's going to go and look for things that are not working well, and it's going to use them for fuel. So after you burn through your glycogen, which is the body's stores of sugar, it's all in your muscles and it's in your liver. After that is gone, you have no more glycogen to burn. Your body's going to burn body fat and a little bit of muscle just to maintain a certain level of sugar. So you do lose a little muscle on a fast, not a lot, but you do, just because it needs to maintain some sugar. But it's going to go around and look for stuff that's not well. Then look for tissue that is diseased. It's going to find stuff that is making you sick, and it's going to consume it. It's going to eat that. It's going to eat that bad cell. It's going to wipe the area new. So it's like going into an old growth forest that has a bunch of dead stuff on the ground and lighting it on fire. And you wipe out all of that dead stuff, and you leave a domain for a new healthy forest to come up in its place. That old stuff is turned to ash, and it's actually the fertilizer for the new tissue. And it's the same thing, that burn mentality, that burn type of thing, is something that happens in health all the time. The dead are wiped out, the new come in. So autophagy is super good. So these processes, all these things that I outlined, they're all backed by science. There's tons and tons of references about it. But I just tell people, you know what? Test it. Don't believe me. I don't care, but don't believe me. Try it. Try it for yourself, because you're going to notice the benefits. So many people now I've talked to, and I encourage people to do it all the time. Here's the cons, okay? So if you're a major coffee or Mountain Dew drinker, which you should never drink, I don't know why anybody drinks that, but if you are, you're going to need to quit that before you go on a fast, because you're going to go through the worst caffeine withdrawal headaches that you've ever had, because it's going to be concomitant with the loss of food. In the first 24 to 48 hours, that's when you feel the worst. And the reason is because you're so used to eating so much. So if you eat 5 or 6 times a day, if that's your thing, like I have to have my 3 meals and my 3 snacks, you're going to be miserable for the first 24 to 48 hours. But guess what? You're going to live. You're going to freaking live. You won't drop over because you're hungry. Nobody drops over because they're hungry. So that's when you're hungry, instead of looking at this as a negative thing, look at it as a positive thing. You're actually moving towards health, because you're going to start to consume the tissue that needs to be consumed. So hunger is a good thing. For the first 24, 48 hours, going to be hungry. You're not going to die. So you're going to be hungry. Some people will have sleep disturbances. My first night I didn't this time. My second night I did. I was a little more antsy, a little more, I don't know. I just didn't sleep as well. That didn't stay with me for my whole 7 days. And but it did kind of bother me a little bit. And that happens, and some people complain of that. This too shall pass. You will get past it. On the morning of the 3rd day, is when I usually notice the mental clarity just kind of coming up a lot. That's when you start to get into what's called ketosis. You could buy these little sticks that measure ketone output in your urine. What they're best for is just to tell you if you're in ketosis. Not necessarily how much ketosis you're in, but they do kind of give you an indication as to that. By 7 days, my ketones were off the strip. I was at 10, 12 millimoles per whatever it is. So a high level of ketosis. And that's partly because I'm not as efficient at burning those as I will get the more I do this. So your body gets better at it once you do it more. So what happens is your body's throwing them off in the urine. Also some in your sweat and your breath. They're different ketones. So you have beta hydroxybutyrate, and then you have acetone. And these are different ones that are liberated when fat is concerned. So you got to get off caffeine first. And then people ask me, well, should I drink juice? No, don't drink juice. Juice is essentially food. It's just food in a liquid form, and it's a lot of juice, especially the ones that people make with a lot of fruits and stuff. That's just sugar. So that's the exact opposite of what we want to do. No juice fast. Suck it up. Suck it up, Buttercup. Water only. Put some minerals in it. No coffee or tea either, because we're trying to benefit from the things that the fast does well. Most people can go 5, 7, 10, 12, 14 days on body fat. Here's how. So a pound of body fat theoretically has 3,500 kilocalories. So 3,500 kilocalories is enough to run most people's base metabolic rate for 2 days, in some cases, a small person, 3 days. So my goal was to lose 20 pounds of body fat through fasting and through my intermittent fasting after. So that's 70,000 calories. So 70,000 calories, you figure 2,000 calories on the high end for base level metabolism. That's 35 days that I could run on that body fat. But I didn't want to completely do that. I'm going to do it over a course of a little bit of time. But I've got my body fat down significantly under 2 fasts, which I think I've dropped, cumulatively 21 pounds. But I did a refeed. I gained about 4 pounds back. But to my, visual, it's not body fat. It's glycogen, it's water, and those types of things. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. The people who should not do fasts are people who have eating disorders. So if you have anorexia or bulimia, where you're on a very tight medication schedule that requires you to have food that you can't not take that medication for some reason, you probably shouldn't fast. Everybody else, especially diabetics, now if you're a type 1 diabetic, you have to watch your sugar more. But here's the thing, when you're not eating, you don't need much insulin. So if you're on a pump, you don't want to continue to pump in insulin when you're not eating, because you could get your sugar dangerously low, and then you could start to initiate some problems that you don't want to initiate. So here's, basically, my guide is basically, here's what you do, here's how you do it, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and what you experience. I'll tell you, on day 4, I start to notice that in the morning my energy is amazing, my mental clarity is amazing, and I think this is basically a survival benefit. So if you think about it, if you're Joe Caveman and you're walking around out there and your brain isn't working well and you don't have any energy, the chances that you're going to get something to eat or something to kill or find something that will nourish your body are pretty minimal. So your body has this survival mechanism, which means you actually heighten your senses, you actually heighten your cognitive ability, you actually heighten your awareness, your brain works faster. I mean, you smell better, everything, not your body smell, because your body smells a little funky, but your sense of smell gets better. And this is survival benefits. So this lasts, up until day 7, I would say I had a definite improvement of mental clarity. About day 7 for me, things got a little dicier. And I think that was maybe my body saying, hey man, we're done. I think it's time now for you to start to eat. And so but I start to plan my exit strategy before day 7. So and here's where my funny story comes in. So I plan things really well, and so, but sometimes my own worst enemy is actually me. They call that Pogo's disconcerting epiphany. I see the enemy and he is me. Well, that's definitely me. So so that was me. Let's see. No, okay. All right. Swipe left to reveal comments and reactions. I don't see any comments. Did anybody make any comments? I can't see any comments. I just see people are watching. Okay. So, all right, get out of here, Joker. All right, go. So I decided, here's how I'm going to break the fast. So I got some bone broth, some organic bone broth, and I got a crock pot. I took bone broth. I cut up an entire bok choy, chopped that up real nice, and a bunch of carrots. So like 2 pounds of carrots, a whole bok choy, an onion. Threw it in a crock pot, bone broth the night before. Let it cook overnight. It was nice and cooked down, perfect. But I also bought this little can of macadamia nuts. So macadamia nuts are like, they're a weakness. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love the darn things. I eat them like crazy. So, but they're very fatty. So, so in the morning of day 7, I got up, did my normal stuff. I was like, I'm gonna wait till maybe 10, 11 or so to eat. So I did my morning things, fed the dog, did whatever I had to do, and then so I ate the soup, the broth that I made, and I said I'll have a few macadamia nuts. Well, a few macadamia nuts turned into, you know, the whole can. So, you know, a little can this big, probably 5 ounces, 4 ounces. That's a lot of fat. That is a lot of fat. Now, keep in mind that I have not eaten in 7 days, and that much fat is probably not wise. So, I stayed around the house because, you know, I don't end the fast on a day where I'm going to be working, because you know, your bowels are going to start to move and work, and they haven't in a while, so it gets a little unpredictable. So if there's a downside to doing this, it is that on the end of your fast, be around the toilet and be home. So you know, my bowels started to move and initiate. A few hours later, you know, bowels were moving, everything was fine. That evening I decided I was going to go work out. So I joined this new gym, and it was late, it was in the evening, and there was nobody in the gym, and most of the lights were off. And so as I was pulling into the parking lot was real bumpy, and it kind of like jostled me around a little bit, and my guts started to go, and I was like, oh man, I need to get to the bathroom fast. The problem was, I didn't know where all the light switches were, and I'd never been to that bathroom before. So I run in, you know, kind of doing the little shuffle, and I can't find the light to the where the commode is. So I'm feeling around, you know, trying to find it, and I'm finally like just got my hands down on it, and I'm like, this is time to blow. So I barely get onto the commode in time, and all the fats that you know, were in those macadamia nuts, you know, they went through me like poop through a goose is the expression. Like, you know, it just went through me. And you know, fortunately there was nobody else in there, because I don't even think I closed the door. I mean, it was like wide open, but it was a near catastrophe. And you know, in you know, training and stuff, we tell people, if you eat too much fats too fast, or you use like MCT oil or something like that, there's a condition, a state of condition that we call disaster pants. That was what it would have been had I not managed to find the commode. It would have been a disaster pants moment, and I would have had a pretty miserable evening trying to get home from that. But I did make it, and it was fine. But so on your refeed day, don't eat a can of macadamia nuts. I mean, like, just don't do that. I mean, you know, it's just not the wisest thing to do. And I knew that. I mean, like, you know, but it's sometimes, like I said, I'm my own worst enemy. And one tasted great, and however many were in there tasted even better. But it was way too much too fast. So the way I tell you to restructure it is to use, depending on the length of a fast. So if your fast is really long, you know, you want to do mostly broth and things to refeed. If your fast is moderately short, maybe 3 days or so, you could go right to vegetables and things. The reason I decided to put it all in a crock pot and cook it down was because it just it kind of breaks it down a little bit. It makes it a lot easier on digestion, and it is amazing how good that tastes when you haven't eaten. And also you just get a new appreciation. One of the other things I didn't talk about, which I kind of skipped over, but it's like one of the craziest things about a fast, aside from reducing inflammation and doing all these other things, is a fast actually can change your gut biome. And the gut biome is what, I'm trying to think, let's see if I wrote it for you. This one. Yeah. So the gut biome is all of the microorganisms in your gastrointestinal tract. And so these organisms, when you're not eating, you can slough off most of them. And you know, the bad ones, if you're sloughing off bad ones, it can actually change your food cravings. It can change your mood. It can change your digestion. It can change your metabolism. So there have been studies that have been done with mice where they took the gut organisms of slender mice and put them in fat mice, and the fat mice lost weight. And then they took the organisms of fat mice, put them in slender mice, and they gained weight. So what's amazing is these organisms are in there, they're doing things for you. So when you feed them properly, they give you what's called short chain fatty acids, which are great for energy. They're energy intermediates. They're very easy to use as energy, but they also make neurotransmitters. One of them is serotonin, and they make nutrients. One of those is folates. So these organisms in your gut, you know, are very influenced by the things that you eat. And so much so, there's such a synergistic effect that the gut organisms can actually make you crave certain foods. So if you're eating a diet that is unhealthy, you go on a fast. At the end of that fast, you've purged everything off. You may have sloughed off enough of those bad organisms that you might not crave those unhealthy foods anymore. So it's very interesting. One of the things I noticed after my 5-day fast was I became weight gain resistant. So I was eating, I would sit down and do a massive meal, and you know, which would be more than I normally would eat, and the next day, you know, my weight would be the same or less. So and I think it has a lot to do with the gut biome, your insulin sensitivity, and all of these other things. So there's all these benefits that, you know, and I'm still figuring them out. I've only done 2 fasts longer than 5 days. So, but I've just noticed all of these benefits to my body, my physiology, and all these things. And we're still figuring these things out. Now, some people have fasted off, you know, the longest fast, and I say this in every video, but the longest fast recorded in medical history was 382 days, and it was a 450-pound man, and he lost 275 or 270 some pounds just with water fasting. So you could definitely do this. It's entirely doable. It's not that hard. It is a little bit uncomfortable. Yes, you'll be hungry. Boo-hoo. Get over it. You might be a little cranky. You might be, you know, mean to your husband or your wife, but I'm sure you've been mean to him before, so it's probably not that big a deal. You know, but it is, the health benefits are amazing. They really are. So this is something that you should think about. If you want my guide, for now, just send me a direct message and say, hey, I want the guide, and I'll send it to you. It'll be a PDF document. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little web page that's going to have it and access to it, and I'm going to do an ethical bribe, which means I'm going to get your email address so that you can get my document. And that means I might send you an email about something that I'm doing or something I'm promoting or something that I'm writing. And I'm actually pretty close to finishing up my book, which is about type 2 diabetes. Really just kind of in the end run here, doing some of the plans, diets at the end. And then I'll be putting that on Amazon and just kind of self-publishing, and hopefully getting a lot of people, this into a lot of people's hands. It's going to be very inexpensive. It's just to try to get it into the hands of masses, because I'm concerned about the future of not just the people, but the health of the nation and our healthcare system. As I said before, 100 million people at risk right now of developing type 2 diabetes. And if 100 million people become type 2 diabetic, that will absolutely destroy healthcare. It will absolutely destroy it. We will not be able to afford it. And I think, I don't think it's an outright conspiracy, but I think big food, big pharma, the TV news, media outlets, all of these people are paving the road to this, because you don't hear about this on the news. They talk about this stupid flu season every year, which is, mumbo jumbo. But we have 100 million people that could become diabetic in the next 5 years. And it's way bigger than the flu season. The flu season kills, the flu kills itself. Not, I'm talking pneumonia, I'm talking flu. Maybe 50 people a year. Pneumonia, bigger issue. Diabetes kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. So it's not even close, but it's not exciting. It's not exciting to talk about things that are things that people can fix for themselves, that they don't need drugs for, that they should stop eating the crappy food that's advertised on TV, that they should stop taking these silly drugs for things they don't need drugs for. This doesn't sell. Nobody makes money. Nobody makes money doing fasts. I mean, this costs $0. In fact, it costs less than $0. So for the week that I did the 7-day fast, I bought no food. So when you don't buy food, the money that you would have spent on food, you're still in your pocket. So it actually saved me money, and it's a counterintuitive. It's like, wait a minute, you didn't spend money on food. No, I didn't spend money on food because I didn't eat any food. So this is transformative. This could transform a person's life. This could take a sick person and get them healthy. And it costs nothing. It's next to nothing. So if I get 10 people to transform their lives, and they tell 10 other people, this is how a movement starts. This is how people help other people get well in mass. And that helps us. A rising tide lifts all boats. So the more healthy people there are, the more people that don't eat bad food, that are not taking a bunch of crappy drugs, the better off society is. The better off society is, the better off you are. Because again, you're in that society. You want people in society to be healthy. You want them to be optimally well, body, mind, and spirit. Unfortunately, our society creates sickness. It creates sickness in every dimension. It creates them physically sick. They're mentally ill. They're emotionally ill. And that is an indoctrination we get from a certain point in age, but it just incubates. It's just one after another of sickness. And so what I'm trying to do is move towards wellness. Wellness is whole. That's what it means in Latin. It means to be whole. So people being whole helps me, because I'm part of society. It helps my kids. It helps my grandchild. It helps all these people in society. It helps your family. It helps your children. It helps your offspring. It helps everybody, because society getting well is good. And that's what this is about. This is about transforming people, transforming lives, and getting people healthy. So again, if you have questions, put them in here. I wish I could see how to answer comments on Facebook Live. Hopefully somebody who knows how to do this can tell me. I'm not seeing it. I used to see them before, and for some reason I don't see that anymore. So I don't know. But that's it. Again, questions. If you got value from this, please share. Please share it, because I want more people to get well. I want to give away a bunch of these guides. I really do. I mean, you know, I'm going to give it away for a while, and then I'm going to have a nominal fee for it, you know, a couple of bucks. And the reason is because free information is often valued as that. It's valued at zero. So if you have some investment, if you have skin in the game, your chances of following through are better. And it's the same with everything. You know, if you buy a gym membership, you're probably going to go work out. If you don't, every month that it hits your bank account, you're going to go, oh, I need to go work out. I'm going to go work out. I need to go work out. Gym memberships, though, you know, it's not the best thing for gyms if everybody comes, but hopefully they will, you know, and that's the thing. I have, at this point, 3 gym memberships, so I need to probably get rid of my gym membership addiction a little bit. But but that's what this is about. It's about transforming. So like, share, please invite others to take a look at this. I invite questions. You know, I'm not getting anything from this. I don't care to. I just want to see who we can help and whose lives we can transform. All right, that's it. Take care. Have a good weekend. I will have another video up about my cardiovascular test, which I know a lot of people are also interested in. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Peace.